What if you could peer into a crystal ball for a soccer match? Imagine knowing, maybe not perfectly, but with a pretty high degree of confidence, what the outcome would be before the whistle even blows. That's the really exciting prospect we're diving into today. We're taking a deep dive into this comprehensive match analysis report from SmartBet AI. We're specifically looking at the Columbus Crew versus Atlanta United match, the one happening on June 25, 2025.
Yeah, and our mission today really is to pull back the curtain on these sophisticated AI models, the ones working behind the scenes to forecast these outcomes. We want to help you understand not just what they predict, but, how they actually do it, and maybe most importantly, why it matters to you. It's kind of a shortcut, really, to understanding this complex blend of stats and machine learning that predicts real-world events, especially in something as, well, dynamic as sports.
Right, dynamic is the word. So let's dive into the specifics of this Columbus Crew versus Atlanta United match. The SmartBet AI report, it starts by painting the full picture, right? The whole game day scenario. It's all happening at lower.com field in Columbus, USA. And these models, they don't just look at who's playing, they consider the entire environment.
Exactly, the whole context.
Yeah, we're talking an evening match, June 25th. Temperatures around 78 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy skies, and you could just feel it, right? That warm, humid air. In fact, there's even a heat advisory mentioned for that time. Imagine the players dealing with that.
Definitely a factor.
And the models are just incredibly meticulous. They factor in everything from temperature, humidity, wind speed, W6 mile per hour, gusts up to 9, even the cloud cover, 92%. These aren't just, fun facts for the weather report. They're precise conditions these advanced models actually crunch, down to the smallest detail.
Absolutely. And beyond the weather, there's the human element. Injuries. That's a critical input for these models. They're meticulously factored in because, well, they dramatically shift team dynamics, don't they?
Oh, for sure. Who's out this time?
Okay, so for the Columbus Crew, we've got goalkeeper Patrick Schulte. He's played 14 games dealing with an abdomen injury, and defender Rui Camacho has a thigh injury.
Right.
Then for Atlanta United, midfielder Tristan Muyumba, 10 games played, he's out with a knee injury. Defender Stan Gregerson, 8 games played, have a thigh injury. And their goalkeeper, Josh Cohen, is dealing with a muscle injury.
Okay.
And this isn't just like a side note or a doctor's report in the analysis. It's direct, quantifiable input into the algorithm. The AI uses this info to dynamically adjust expected performance, expected outcomes. It just shows how deeply these systems analyze every single detail.
That's incredible. So it's not just checking who's available. It's like actively recalculating the team's potential based on who's missing. Now, speaking of quantifying potential, how do these systems actually measure something as, abstract as team strength or momentum? That's where we get into some really foundational mathematical tools, starting with something maybe familiar to chess players.
Yeah.
ELO ratings.
Exactly. ELO is perfect for this. It's a rating system originally designed for chess, but it's been adapted really successfully for team sports, including soccer. Think of it like a constantly updating power ranking for teams. It gives you this dynamic measure of team strength. It's always adjusting after each game based on the result. And, this is critical, the strength of the opponent you just played.
So beating a strong team matters more than beating a weaker one.
Precisely. Beating a top-tier team boosts your ELO score way more significantly than beating a team lower down the table. At its core, it's actually quite intuitive. The formula basically says your new rating is your old rating plus an adjustment based on how you actually perform versus what was expected. And like we said, how strong your opponent was. It helps quantify momentum, strength of schedule, match difficulty, all in a statistically grounded way. It goes way beyond just looking at wins and losses. It's like the AI's way of figuring out who's hot, who's not, and, by how much.
Got it. So ELO quantifies team strength. But how do we actually predict the unpredictable, like the exact number of goals in a match? I hear there's this statistical model. Sounds a bit academic, but apparently it's super powerful for this. Poisson regression.
It absolutely is. Don't let the name fool you. Poisson regression is a statistical model that's really ideal for forecasting these kinds of discrete events that happen over a fixed interval, which makes it pretty much perfect for predicting goals in soccer. It estimates the expected number of goals for each team based on a whole range of features: team strength from ELO, recent form, XG.
XG being expected goals, right?
Yep.
Quality of chances.
Exactly, expected goals. Plus those crucial injury reports we just discussed, and even things like home advantage. It pulls all that together. The core assumption, mathematically speaking, is that goals follow something called a Poisson distribution. Basically, they happen kind of randomly, but with a predictable average rate over time.
Right.
So the model then tells us the predicted goal counts based on all those inputs. For this specific match, the home Poisson model predicts 1.70 home goals, and the away Poisson model predicts 0.67 away goals.
Okay, so a clear edge for the home team there, based on the Poisson model.
Definitely. And what's really fascinating here are the insights the model itself surfaces when you look inside it. For instance, in the home model, home injuries had what we call a statistically significant negative coefficient, minus 10387, with a low p-value, which basically confirms, with data, something we intuitively feel. Home team injuries don't just matter, they measurably decrease the expected number of goals.
Wow, okay, so it quantifies that intuition.
Precisely. The AI confirms it with hard numbers, and conversely, Homelo, that dynamic strength rating, had a significant positive coefficient. Stronger ELO, more expected goals. It makes sense, but the model proves it.
And what about the away model? Anything interesting there?
Yeah, for the away Poisson model, it was really interesting that market probabilities, things derived from betting odds, essentially were highly significant. We're talking about the market's implied probability of an away win, the probability of the total goals being under 2.5, and even the chance both teams score, all highly significant predictors.
So the AI is looking at betting markets too.
It seems SmartBet AI integrates that collective wisdom, or at least the market sentiment, into its calculations. It uses it to refine its own predictions even further. But, this all leads to a pretty important question. How do we account for the inherent uncertainty? Soccer is rarely that predictable, right? A single number prediction feels incomplete.
You're absolutely right. One number, like 1.7 goals, doesn't really tell the whole story of possibilities. So what does this mean for making the predictions more robust? I think you mentioned something called the bootstrap Poisson prediction model. Does that help with the uncertainty?
Exactly. That's where bootstrapping comes in. It builds directly on the standard Poisson regression we just talked about. Think of it like this. Imagine baking a cake. Instead of just following the recipe once, you bake it, say, 100 times, maybe tweaking tiny things each time based on rereading the instructions slightly differently. For our models, this means we don't just use our training data once. We resample it, basically drawing data points from it with replacement dozens, maybe hundreds of times, to create new bootstrap samples. Each of these samples is then used to train a separate Poisson model. So now we have, say, 100 slightly different models.
Right. A whole collection of models.
Then we simulate thousands of match score lines from all of these model variations. This whole process makes our predictions much more robust. It's less likely to be thrown off by one odd bit of data, and crucially, it captures that realistic uncertainty we were talking about.
So it gives you more than just one number.
Yes. Instead of just a single point estimate, it provides a distribution of possible outcomes. For this specific match, the bootstrapped Poisson model predicts home goals at 1.69, very close to the simple Poisson, but now with a 95% confidence interval of 0.0, 5.0.
0 to 5 goals for the home team seems plausible.
And for away goals, it predicts 0.68, again very close, but with a 95% confidence interval of 0.00, 3.00. So now you have a clear range of likely outcomes, 0 to 3 for the away team. That's much more insightful than just one rigid number, isn't it?
Definitely more realistic.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got these statistical models giving us probabilities and ranges, which is already pretty advanced. But the SmartBet AI takes it even further, right? It brings in machine learning. You mentioned ensemble models. How do these actually work together? Is it like they just take a vote, or is it more complex?
That's a great question. And yeah, it's definitely more sophisticated than just a simple vote count. An ensemble approach means having multiple, quite distinct machine learning models working together. The goal is to produce a final prediction that's more accurate and more robust than any single model could be on its own. Think of it as having a committee of highly specialized experts, right? Each brings their own unique perspective, their own way of looking at the data.
Okay, like different specialists.
Exactly. First up, we often see random forest. This model is like assembling a huge panel of decision makers, hundreds of individual decision trees. Each tree gets a slightly different view of the data and essentially votes on the outcome. By combining all these votes, random forest is fantastic at handling tons of data. It's very resistant to overfitting.
Overfitting being when the model learns the noise, not the signal.
Precisely. It doesn't get fooled by random fluctuations, and it's great at capturing complex, non-linear relationships in the data. For this match, its prediction is a home win.
Okay, one vote for home win. Who's next?
Then there's the gradient boosting machine, often XGBoost, which is a popular high-performance version. This one learns sequentially. Imagine it like a student building knowledge step by step. Each new tree it builds tries to correct the errors made by the trees that came before it.
Ah, learning from mistakes.
Kinda, yeah. This iterative refinement leads to really superior accuracy. Plus, it can tell us which features like ELO, injuries, XG were most important in making its prediction. XGBoost's prediction for this match is also a home win.
2 for home win. Keep going.
All right. Next, we have the multi-layer perceptron, or MLP. This is a type of neural network, a deep learning model. It's inspired loosely by the human brain and excels at finding really subtle, hidden patterns, complex, nonlinear stuff that simpler models might completely miss.
What kind of pattern?
Things like momentum shifts that aren't obvious from just scores, or maybe the compound effect of multiple injuries interacting. It learns these more abstract representations from the data. The MLP's prediction, also home win.
Okay. Seems like a consensus building.
Well, almost. Finally, the report mentions LightGBM. This is another gradient boosting framework like XGBoost, but it's known for being extremely fast and efficient, even with massive datasets. It builds trees in a slightly different way, leaf-wise growth, which often leads to better accuracy and speed. It's great at capturing those tricky nonlinear interactions. Interestingly, its prediction for this match is a draw.
Oh, a curveball. So not a unanimous decision then.
Exactly, and that's not a failure of the models. That divergence, most saying home win, one strongly suggesting a draw, is precisely why the final step, the stacking model, is so crucial. It needs to intelligently weigh these different expert opinions.
Right, it makes sense. You wouldn't want to just ignore one dissenting voice if it's based on a powerful model. So it's really remarkable how many specialized models are involved, each giving its piece of the puzzle. But like you said, when you have these distinct predictions, some even disagreeing, like GBM predicting a draw, how do you arrive at one single confident answer? Is that where the stacked model comes in? Is it like the final boss combining all the inputs?
Final boss is a good way to put it. Yes, the stacked model is essentially our ultimate meta-learner. Think of it as maybe the highly experienced head coach. They take all the detailed insights from their specialized assistant coaches.
Our random forest, XGBoost, MLP, LightGBM, even the Poisson models.
Exactly. All of those base models we just discussed. The stacked model learns how to optimally combine their outputs, their predictions, their probabilities to formulate the best final game plan, the best overall prediction.
So it learns which models to trust more under certain conditions.
Precisely. It might learn that, say, random forest is usually reliable, but when LightGBM strongly disagrees, its opinion should be given more weight, perhaps. It figures out the optimal blend. And this approach has really crucial advantages. It leverages the unique strengths of all the different underlying models. It drastically reduces the risk of overfitting compared to relying on just one complex model. And it significantly improves the stability and ultimately the accuracy of the predictions across all sorts of different match scenarios.
Okay, so the moment of truth. What's the final word from the stacked ensemble for this Columbus versus Atlanta game?
After weighing everything, the ultimate consensus-based forecast from the stacked ensemble is home win.
Home win it is.
Yeah.
That's the SmartBet AI's final call after processing everything.
That's the one.
Incredible journey from weather reports to this. But how do we translate all this complex modeling into something, well, actionable?
Yeah.
Or at least easier to grasp than just home win? I think the last piece was the Monte Carlo simulation.
Yes, the Monte Carlo simulation module is really where all this probabilistic information comes vividly to life. It takes the outputs, the probabilities, the expected goals, the uncertainty ranges from all those sophisticated models, and it basically runs the match thousands upon thousands of times in a virtual simulation. Over 10,000 times, in fact, for this report.
Wow, 10,000 simulated matches.
Yeah. In each simulation, it repeatedly samples goal outcomes for both teams. It uses those Poisson distributed random draws we mentioned earlier, but they're weighted by all the factors the models considered: team strengths, home advantage, injuries, everything.
So it's like watching the game play out again and again, seeing all the possibilities.
Exactly that. And this process generates incredibly powerful outputs. It doesn't just give you the most likely winner, it estimates precise probabilities for a home win, a draw, and an away win. It can pinpoint the most likely exact score lines, like maybe 1-0 is slightly more likely than 2-0 or 2-1. It provides detailed distributions for the total number of goals in the match. You can see the chance of under 1.5 goals, under 2.5, over 3.5, and so on.
That's much more useful.
And it can even potentially identify value bets by comparing the simulation's frequencies, how often a certain outcome occurred in 10,000 sims to the odds offered by bookmakers.
Right, finding discrepancies.
Exactly. Its core strength is that it captures the inherent uncertainty and, frankly, the randomness of a real soccer match in a far more realistic way than any single point prediction ever could. It greatly enhances your confidence in the overall forecast because you understand the range of possibilities. It's the closest thing we have to watching the match play out thousands of times to see what's truly most probable.
What a process. We've really gone from, like you said, the basic weather report and injury lists, all the way through sophisticated ELO ratings, Poisson regressions, that whole arsenal of ensemble machine learning models, random forest, XGBoost, MLP, LightGBM, culminating in that robust stacked prediction, and then visualizing it all with the Monte Carlo simulation. It's genuinely a journey from raw data points to, well, deep insight.
It really is. And this deep dive, I hope, shows you how all these seemingly disparate, complex data points get woven together into a single, powerful, data-driven prediction. What stood out to you as maybe the most surprising insight into how these predictions are actually made? How all this detail gets brought to bear on something that still feels so unpredictable like sports?
That's a good question. For me, I think it was seeing how the different models, especially like GBM, could diverge
Hmm.
and how the system accounts for that rather than just averaging. It feels more intelligent. But that leads to our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Beyond just predicting match outcomes, which is already impressive, how might these incredibly detailed and comprehensive AI models fundamentally change things in the future? How might they change how sports are actually played or how teams are managed? Or even how player development and team strategies are designed down the line? Something to think about.